a little bit, then the emotion will tilt a little bit. Then the story I tell will tilt a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you can work on both sides of the emotion.
That's right. And
Because you
it's
just, sorry, Jason.
go, Alison.
It's because you just created more space.
Yep.
Thanks, Jason.
And the tone of the words will reveal the emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
That's truly what we want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the level that we connect with our emotions, not our words. And yet our words help us connect with the emotions.
Yeah, and with each other.
Mm-hmm. Now, people say words they don't believe all the time. We do things that we don't believe all the time because what's in here and what they told us out there is our inner conflict.
Mm.
So in reality, what we're listening for is our inner conflict and their inner conflict. And, oh, does my experience of my inner conflict match yours? Or does mine, can I help you? Can you help me? Back and forth. And all it helps is space. Like charge and space. It's like if I had to, if I, like, do you know how exhausting it is to repeat every word you said in my head? Yes, I know it becomes a practice, and in reality, it's what we do. But I'm listening for a charge. I'm listening for space. I'm listening for time. I don't need to listen for anything else. That tells me everything.
But the words are an expression of what they're feeling.
Exactly. I'm not listening to the story. I'm not getting wrapped into their story.
And see how that listening to self-talk is so different, it is.
No. I thought so. I mean, I pursued something farther. And so much the same, right? I'm not discounting the sameness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And could you say, like, oh, maybe I'm not going deeper? Maybe. But I guess I go deeper in a different direction. What would that different direction would be? I'm deep in the B.
Yeah, I think so. I think with listening to the words and the story in the way that you described, you're not acknowledging the presence of what we exist in. And so you limit yourself. So your structure is different.
Yeah. And if you resist the notion that you're powerful, right? Like power with our words, with our emotions, right? You won't allow yourself to see it, which then is a structure, and it doesn't matter. I mean, your words speak to the structure.
What came to me with what you said is that we're very powerful when we are totally present.
Yeah.
Enormously powerful.
And that's what the silence has done for me, is helped me be more present. That's stable.
Mm.
And it's like in the presence, it's like, yeah, you can look one way or the other, and there's all sorts of chaos. My silent space used to be full of all chaos, but it was just all the unresolvable stories. They were just the same thing, just flavored differently.
Mm.
And it wasn't never my truth. I would never let that out. So I'd only give people, like, my words were like this. It's not a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Like, our words aren't lies, but they're not truths. They're between that conflict of what's in here and what they told us out there.
Yeah, somewhere between everything and nothing.
Yeah.
Well, ain't that what a truth or a lie is? One is everything, one is nothing. Oh, it's somewhere between.
It just depends on what side you're on, right? Which one you want it to be.
And what charge you give it.
That's all, yeah.
Good one, Hans.
I can't, I mean, no, you can tell me whatever you want, and I can make the same thing out of a charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like training your voice to be authentic.
Mm.
I'm training myself to sound authentic. It's like, what is the point of that? Why not just be authentic? As you think of marketing. Marketing wants to sound authentic. And you can tell a difference between forced authentic and true authentic. And it's probably different for everyone.
Well, training it to sound authentic is sort of like training it to fit the ego.
Exactly. What's the only reason to do that is to get your money.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So if I sound authentic, then you'll trust me earlier on and you'll buy from me. Like that's what I see out there. Isn't that just a trick?
It's like the parrot that can sound like a phone or sound like a dog. Doesn't make it a dog or a phone. But people are still afraid of. I've seen cockatoos. I've watched, and the postman didn't want to go get near the door because he was afraid it was a dog that was there. But then he saw that cockatoo come running out. That's no dog. That's a parrot. Yes, he thinks he's a guard dog.
See, the story's in our head, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can change the story to say it's not a dog, even if it is a dog.
That'll be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, somebody did it.
Mm.
Mm. And it was like, so wisdom, that's what I call wisdom, is between what is and what could be.
Mm-hmm.
The possibilities.
Yep. And that doesn't mean go with the first one. Go with the first one that feels the rightest, the truest, which then would mean you'd have to have that test, that internal test, automatic, practiced, or done repetitively. Because look, if you can change your feelings to be what you want most of the time, let's say calm, peaceful, steady, stable,
That's
not happy, like let's just use neutral for the moment. Not saying you shouldn't live in life, but it's like when you're aware, you just want to notice like what it is. Which one am I? What mood am I in? Because don't. All right. So how many stories do you have for each of your emotional states? So happy or peaceful. It's like, how many stories would you make up that are around that?
Unlimited possibilities.
Right. So it's like you're forever going to be changing your story.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstances.
Yep. And it's not like every flavor, like every emotion is the same, because sometimes they're just degrees.
Mm.
So they have partners, right, that are influencing, they're injecting their energy into it.
And people can be peaceful at a rock concert.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's peaceful, noise messy, but they
Even
find
if
it
peaceful, even if they don't want to be there.
yeah.
Peaceful. It takes practice, and practice in our own silence. People say they can't shut their head off. Well, that isn't changing your story. You're not going to get there by changing your story. Well, maybe, like, will it help with the awareness? Probably. Maybe that's baby step number one. Look at me just justify my rightness. With a group of people who will agree with me.
And you don't need to justify it. You're always right, Jesse. We learned that here.
Good. Thank you. That's right. I mean,
Hey, I was right.
as long as you know the hierarchy, Heinz. I mean, it was, geez, I'm sorry, but I was listening to it and it was just like, oh, all hail the king. All
Yeah,
hail the king with all the answers.
but the king is still aware of the Joker.
Mm. And
Well
that's
said.
and that is I dare say this, that is a real king.
Yeah.
The leader can be aware of their own stepping and the impact of their stepping. Then the people that are being led, or the work that's being done in the team, is going to be far more creative and sustainable, stable and sustainable. As opposed to fixed.
Mm.
Well, wouldn't even go to fixed. I would say if it was just for the king, it'll all end when the king gets what he wants or she wants.
Yeah.
And then what's everyone else left with?
Nothing.
Yeah, we got to go somewhere else now.
Well, they've got to pay more. They've got to pay more taxes to stay with them.
Well, that's always that's guaranteed. Right. Oh, I just so yeah, just like everyone else, same path, just like all the other ones. Farther along than mine, and that's okay. Because I'm not pushing mine to look anyway.
You're not pushing what?
I'm not pushing mine to look any way, to have to be anything that out there says that it need, like, you need to do this, you need to do this to do this to get to that. And it's like, no, I don't.
Mm.
No, it's something we got to figure out, and we got to figure it out each and every day.
That's exactly it.
Exactly.
It's like it figures itself out.
Yes.
We
That's
continue to show up,
yes.
find what works best, and apply it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's how do we get there, like, into the awareness quickly?
By engaging with the allowing.
Mm-hmm. And allowing what?
What is to reveal itself.
Mm-hmm. Charges, like charges is a way to reveal itself.
Yes.
Intensities reveal, because it's like, out of all the words that, like, out of the sentence that you spoke, what one word popped out at me, hit me in the face?
Yeah.
Like, was it a fight or did it pull me in?
Yeah.
Right? One of those words either wanted to fight me or wanted to pull me in. And it was like, which one was it? And it doesn't happen every time. I don't listen for it in every word, nor do I address it all the time. And gee, my heart is with you this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Ah.
And so, like breakthroughs, right? And it's like breakthroughs are, it's what every quote program wants. It's what they teach. It's what they lead. It's like they're sharing their breakthrough. We do no different.
Then we get back to every breakthrough is different, because the emotion might be love, but love in a different degree another person experience. Even though two persons have the sort of same breakthrough, it's not the same when you look deep enough into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I had that experience this weekend, Hans.
Mm. Tell.
Well, it was just, I've had this awareness of the difference that of my experience during the move, and then after having moved and being here, and there was just this physical fatigue, no doubt, but there was something else missing.
Mm.
And I was aware of it, and I thought, well, our bodies and what we experience inside of ourselves are very closely linked, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of waited, and then I unexpectedly got a request to start seeing a new client, and I kind of promised myself that I wouldn't start doing that until the house was in a reasonable state of order, and it's not in a reasonable state yet, really speaking. But it was like I'd kind of lost my enthusiasm for it. Anyway, so I sat with the request, and I thought, well, let me explore it. And so I explored it, and it's a really wonderful client. I'm exceptionally lucky to have her. So I start with that, and I recognize that gives me a little bit more impetus, but it still wasn't. Like I knew there was something still missing. And so there's a process that I learned in my training. It's a very simple process, and it's almost like meditation, but it's not quite the same thing. Anyway, so I connected with somebody that I had taught the process to, and we sat together last night. And what came up for me during the process is a very old theme. But is it a theme or just? It's it's a part of myself that I have to go back to over and over again over time, and it's not like that's always the part that I have to go back to. But there it was again, and there was so much. There was almost no charge to it, but it was present, and it's a part of myself that it almost immobilizes me at times. It will always hold me back. And what I'll share about it, what was so amazing to me is how quickly this time the images came, and how true they were, in terms of that I didn't try and figure them out. They were just there. And how quickly the momentum came. And that when I started to feel myself in that like meditative state, feel myself move, I remembered that I've been that the word momentum has been very present for me over the past few months. So when you spoke about what I heard as the layers of things, this came, this experience came to mind. And how with each layer, there are different opportunities and possibilities. Because different dots get connected, different coordinates get connected. And that's what I mean about the mystery. When you go into presence fully, because that's part of what this technique does, it makes you be fully present in your body. And when you do that, your body will show you.
Have a great day, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, Will. Thanks for
Bye,
being.
Will.
I will.
Bye-bye.
So, with what you were saying, Allison, what is really neat about sitting in that and being so present within the body, it's a different form of silence.
Mm-hmm.
And the body, the brain understands there was an event, there was an experience. And the body felt the event and felt the experience. The brain has already processed it and created a story, but the body is still holding its own story.
That's exactly it.
And we've talked, like I've said before, the language of the brain, of the mind, is different than the language of the body. And what this process does is focus only on the body. It eliminates the chatter of the mind so that the body can finish the experience. And what's so wonderful about this process, because I am familiar with it too, is that the body does not relive the experience. It just finishes the experience with the resolution of removing that experience or the feelings of that experience, the emotion of that experience from a part of the body
Mm.
where it's being held.
And it disconnects the attachments,
Yeah.
you know, or everything that gets attached to that experience as we go on in life. So we have a traumatic experience, and our body, you know, holds that.
Mhm.
And then as we go on in life, the other experiences then that it's I mean, it's an interesting thing because they add to that defense, as it were. But at the same time, when you can go to the essence of that defense, all the attachments loosen.
Yes. Sometimes it only takes a minute, and other
Yeah.
times it takes many, many minutes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's okay.
And it can take it, and I know this from experience, it can take many times of doing the
Mhm.
process.
Yes. Yes. It's whatever the person is comfortable with, because for some it's unknown territory
Yeah.
that they're going into their body.
Yeah.
And the mind's reaction is to turn and run.
Yeah.
Stuff it away, hide it, turn a
Yeah.
blind eye to it, like whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah.
I can remember the very first time I had that experience, and it was every time I was experiencing a lot of grief and sadness, and every time I walked past a photo, a specific photo, I would burst into tears. And yet I couldn't put the photo away. I couldn't turn it down. I had to leave the photo there. So the mind is saying, no, it has to be there. And yet at the same time, I'm crying.
Mm.
And after this process, and it didn't take long at all, but it was an incredible process, I remember thinking, that's it. But when I looked at the photo, I didn't have the tension, the emotions that were attached to that photo. I could look at the photo and enjoy the photo just for the essence of looking at the photo, acknowledging what event what the photo was taken at.
Mm.
And yet it was
Mm.
freeing, very freeing.
Yeah. There's no charge anymore.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Mm.
And
Put
that's
the
where you
photo-
find peace. Yeah, that's where I found peace with that particular aspect in my life.
Mm.
And if you look at another option, if you had put the photo away, you wouldn't have worked through it.
Mm.
Correct.
Mm.
Correct. And that grief and sadness would have still stayed stored in my body.
Yeah.
Until in a different way to release it.
Mm.
Yeah. Just stronger and more potent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hmm. So if we just assume an average person, right, who comes into Fireside, like a willingness to come in, explore, see what's there, is like they want what we've got. And still wonder, like, what are you doing? What do you do? What is it I'm doing here? Like, it's not, maybe it's like what I'm familiar with, and maybe it's not. what would this person say if you asked them? So just imagine you're this person, you're coming in for the first time. It's what charge fills your space? Putting yourself in their shoes or taking you back years, whatever point, it's like, how would you have reacted, responded to that question? What charge fills your space?
So, Jesse, I had a similar question once. And the question to me was, and this was in a completely different setting, what problem do you have right now?
Mm.
And I talked about all kinds of stuff, and they said, okay, that's from the past, but what problem do you have right now?
Mm.
Sitting there, right now in this present moment. And it made one have to think, what is charging me right now?
Mm.
Is my sock too tight or my shoe too loose? Like, what's my problem right now? And so, with that question that you gave about the charge, is it the charge that you're having right now based on what is being spoken in the group? Or is it the charges, the bag of charges that you, or backpack of charges you are bringing into the group
Mm.
that you carry around with you all the time?
Oh, I love that awareness. Thank you.
Mm.
Because if we come in here looking to create more space, our tendency is just to fill it up with what we've already got.
Mm. Mm.
Most of us live in a negative charge.
So when you're asking about what is the word of the day, people are coming to the right now moment of how they are experiencing their world.
Yep.
And that is,
filtered to one
yes,
word.
yes. And that is the problem you're having today. My problem is no problem because I feel like laughter.
Yep.
Or I feel like peace or curiosity, or I don't have a word yet, which is okay.
And some might not be okay with that. And that's their charge they get to work through.
Yes.
No one else is doing that charge to them.
Right. Because sometimes I've had that and realized that my word is just numb.
Mhm.
And so then I ask, okay, why numb? And it could be something totally just out there. Because maybe I just came, joined the group, and I was sitting in my own silence or meditation coming in, and I'm just sitting there in awe. And it's not necessarily numb, but it was just a word that described the feeling of relaxed, awe, not wanting to move, but still pleasurable.
And I think a lot of people, yes, would want more space in their life, more space for things that mattered, that were important to them. So it's our revealing our automatics. So even if we didn't address the automatics and we created more space, we would just fill that space with our automatics.
Oh, here's a question. If one is creating more space, is one just reorganizing the charges?
Mm-mm. No, if you just reorganize. Oh, sorry, I misheard what you said.
Yes.
Ah,
So
interesting.
are we putting
That-
them in a way of priority and then realizing that one might not be as charged as we thought?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely, yes.
Mhm.
But that's interesting. Sorry, to me, it's interesting because as you heard, my first response was, no, it's not just switching the chairs around. That's
Who's charged?
yeah, and that's so. What is that I immediately went to that?
That's why I asked the question. I knew it would get a rise out of you
Ricky.
or Jesse. I predict
Ricky.
A conductor. It's like pulling or baiting, like we're fishing, right? We're fishing for charges. Maybe, it's not like our intention is to pull out charges, but like here we're to find our own. And a lot of times we need help finding them.
Yes.
And like doing it is the best way to find it. Not meditating about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep.
Like, where else can you say what you want out loud? It's like you can do that in front of a mirror, but people even think that's weird. Like speaking out loud to yourself, like we put you in special places for that.
Yeah, it's called My Home.
So you live at that same asylum place, huh?
But by not speaking to ourselves, what are we doing? We're not allowing our body and our mind to communicate with one another. We're not allowing our ego to speak its mind, and then our other parts say, "Oh, no way, Jose."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for the input. Thanks for the information.
Because I remember saying to my kids, because if there's something going on, especially with the boys, and a little voice inside of you says this might not be the right thing, listen to the little voice. And I can remember my eldest came home from school one day and he says, "Mom, I listened to my little voice today, and boy, it kept me out of trouble." So that was oh, it was so cute. He was like 7 years old.
That's great. That's great.
And then they turn into teenagers and they got all kinds of voices going on. There's no little one anymore.
Yeah.
But that's the intuition, right? Teaching them to listen to their intuition as well.
Yes. And that there are different parts of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And when you observe children, they talk to themselves. When
Yes,
they're
they do.
playing,
Yeah.
they're role playing and they're talking.
Yeah. And then that's the imaginary friend as well, right?
Yes. So it's interesting just to listen to them, but don't squash it.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen. It's interesting. It's quite interesting.
Mm.
find out a lot about a child's words when they're playing and talking.
Mm-hmm. That's where you find their essence.
Mm-hmm.
How do we squash it? How can we squash it?
By making them feel making them embarrassed that they're talking out loud, making them feel like that's not the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
Making fun of what they're saying. So
Mm-hmm.
then we end up with those sabotaging identities then.
Mm-hmm.
What's good about this group is most people have seen the comic about Garfield. Garfield is the cat that says things that most people wouldn't dare saying but really want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of this group, that when one has the courage to be a Garfield for your own being, this is a space that one can be a Garfield for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and not be judged, but can expand. And the person listening to somebody that is speaking and expanding like a Garfield of their own can listen to that and feel if there's any resonance to what is being said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how discussion then opens up.
Mm-hmm. And everybody benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can I take 5 minutes to be a Garfield? I want to circle back to my charged reaction. I'm trying to figure out what was that about, and I would welcome any question or comment. Annette, what was your question again?
Something to the effect of if giving space is a way of reorganizing charges.
Yes. And so my immediate thing was, it's much more than that. Okay, so I got my answer. But what? Yeah, okay, so that was my answer. But that doesn't mean to say that reorganizing charges is not what happens. For me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I want to ask you, please, why did you think that either I or Jessie would react to that?
Let's just say automatic patterns with certain types of questions.
Okay. And so what have you observed?
Oh, I'm not going to give away all my secrets right now.
She knew
That's
she had the
how-
right bait to catch a Jessie or Allison.
It's part of my method of listening and observing,
Yes.
using my intuition as well.
Yes.
And listening to my intuition with questions and pictures and stuff like that, just sensing the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I have learned when because I have been working on intuition a lot,
Yes.
that when I get something, it might only be a flash. What is that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And doggone it, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm able to capture a lot of things.
Yeah. You sure do.
For somebody that's trying to experience how to live in the present moment, there's a great way one can observe it. As if you have, let's say, pets like dogs. I have 2 dogs. And
Mm.
if you watch them,
Mm.
they are living in the moment of right now.
Absolutely. Animals are like that, right?
And as a human, it's like, oh, how many times do we say, I wish I could be like my dog?
Mm.
Well, you can just live in the right now,
Correct.
because dogs, it appears, they don't carry grudges. They just carry experiences.
Yes, totally. And they
Mhm.
shake them off too, much
Yes.
more than what we do.
Mhm. And when they're tired, they just lie down and
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah.
So as humans, it's really neat. When you actually are tired, just stop for a moment and rest.
Yeah. And I
And if you watch them, what are they observing? Because they might be lying down, but their eyes are open. What are
Mm.
they observing?
You.
Mm-hmm.
Everything around them.
Mm-hmm.
Not just
You
with their eyes, but with their ears too.
Mm.
Because sometimes they'll just jump up and race to the sliding door. And I open it up and out they just buzz outside. Because they're still observing with their ears,
Mm-hmm.
or all their senses, I should say.
Mm. The smell is also very strong.
Yeah.
And their barks have different tone.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yes. I also have a chinchilla. And when I go to feed the chinchilla, the big one, big Malamute comes over and gives this puppy like bark that
Mm.
only ever comes out when I'm with the chinchilla.
Oh man, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
And so a conductor, right? Well, a conductor would fish for charges
Mm-hmm.
because we know the breakthroughs are through the charges.
Mm.
We want to encourage, support, expand positive charges, and we want to neutralize, so take negative charges into neutral.
Yes.
And so it's like, so in like neutral, there is I don't know, like Heinz pointed it out, it's like there's not really an opposite for neutral,
No.
which is perfect. So it's like there's nothing that, like there's no neutral's fine. There's nothing to do. You can't do anything in neutral. Me, breakthrough wise.
Yes. But it is the grounding,
Yes,
right?
it's the stability. It's a like the and
Yeah.
so the wobbles happen when the stability is missing pieces.
That's right. Because when you said you want to expand the positive, and absolutely we do, but there's also in the tone of the positive, and you can often hear it in a voice, where the charge for the person is positive, but you can hear that it's unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that positive charge in our language is more informed by the ego.
Yes. And that's the version of, you said it, but I know deep down you don't believe that. And of course, just that statement's going to trigger the fight to be right button.
Yeah. Yeah.
The protector button, the controller button, whichever button. It's just like, yeah. Sorry, Annette. Yeah, like you, it's like you spoke to your listening skill. It's like, oh, mine too. And I'm going to pick that scab.
Mm. And it's, I mean, to speak to what you've just spoken to in terms of Annette's processing, it was her intuition that you allowed to inform her that it was an important thing to do.
Yes. And that discretion, that's a life living practice in itself.
Absolutely.
Intuition or ego, huh?
Yeah.
They don't sound the same.
No, they've got very different tones.
So,
Or pitches. Maybe pitches are better. Sorry, Annette.
I was going to say, this is where you let your intuition have a voice.
That's right.
So you can speak your intuition, and your ego can respond. Your ego can speak, and your intuition can respond.
Yes.
Very
So
well.
talking to yourself is very healthy in that sense.
Yes, when you've included the intuition, it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But if you're only, I mean, sometimes you have to start off with just the psyche, right? But ultimately, that if that psyche isn't opened to intuition, it remains an unresolved structure. As soon as you open it and allow the intuition to start engaging with it, that's when you have a creative structure.
Yes, because something as simple as the ego saying, "Oh, I really wish I could have that." The response could be, "Why is that?" Well, suddenly, we're so programmed to give a responses to the answer. So let the body respond, let the mind respond to the question. Well, why is that?
Mm.
Or I don't like that. Well, why?
Why don't you want to cross the bridge?
Mm-hmm. Why are you asking me this question?
Yeah.
That's why it's like we've never questioned ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Like to the degree that we're like we've never challenged our assumptions. We just go around assuming they're true.
Yes, and we assume that they're true because they've worked before, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why we feel stuck.
Mm-hmm. We do. And then we get frustrated because we're stuck,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed, anxious, stressed because we're stuck.
Mm.
Not realizing, well, really, what do I want? I want to be like movement, flowing. Oh, flowing. We get focused on where we like what it is. Just as easy, we could say what it isn't. And what really matters is, well, what could it be that I can work with? What do I want it to be? So it could is like allow all the different variations of could, and then like ask the intuition which one's right. Or ask the intuition which one's right and feel into the focus into the answer. All sorts of ways. That's why I can't just like you just can't give someone the one way that you can give a structure. It's like, oh, here, look at the structure. Space, charge, in here, out there. That's the awareness. That, you add time in there if you want. I mean, there's 4 categories that every conversation, like, I don't know if there's any other way, like any fuller way to look at everything.
Well, yeah, because I mean, up to now, I think that those coordinates point to different parts of the territory in which we exist in. We exist in space, we exist because of it. We're materialized or manifested. So there's a charge. And we exist within time.
Any story that we make up is going to fall inside of that.
Yes, so to be aware, where the hell does aware fit in? It doesn't fit into any of those. It's the umbrella for them. Those are the spokes.
I like it. The spokes of awareness. Yes. Spokes of awareness. Oh, what a great morning. Thank you all.
Yes.
Yeah, you all have a blessed day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thanks
Have a
all.
great day.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.